Today we'll be discussing a topic that is going to help you become more efficient and reduce code repetition throughout your code. CSS variables allow you to set custom properties which can be later reused in other elements in your document. Now to start us off, you can think of CSS variables as containers, a box that can store data for later use. We have two kinds of variables, a global variable which can be used throughout the entire document, and a local variable that can only be used inside the selector where it was declared. Usually, as you can see, we will target the background color attributes and assign the color value we would like to use over here. I'll quickly comment this out, and what you should notice is that our box 2 and box 4's background color should disappear because I've targeted box 2 and box 4 over here. We will now talk about declaring a local scope variable. In order to use variables in CSS, you need to go into the element that you want to target and start off with 2 hyphens. Then following that, you can give it any name you want that will help you understand why you're using this color in the first place. In this case, I will just use blue and then close it off with the colon and semicolon. After that, we need to define the color that we're going to use over here. I will just use Dodger blue again, but you can use any color you'd like to. But do try to use more descriptive names for your variables over here. In order to use our color variable that we've defined over here, we need to target our background color again, and then we need to use a new keyword known as var, and then in these brackets we need to write a variable name. So whatever name you have over here, you write over here. And now if I save that, you should notice that our color returns to our box 2 and our last box over here. This is called creating a local scope variable. These two elements we've targeted over here are the only two elements that this variable will affect, and you can't use it outside of that scope. We can easily solve this by using a global variable instead. To create variables with global scopes, we need to declare a new selector known as root. The root selector matches the document's root element, meaning we can use it in the entire document. Usually, you want your root selector to be at the top of your document. Then you can create all the variables that you're going to use later on. Now we will take this variable that we've defined over here and move it into the root selector. Now if I save that, you should see that our colors remain intact. In fact, let's do the same for our first and third box over here. Just going to clear that out. And then over here, we'll create another variable and we're going to name it white. And then we're just going to assign it the color white. And then in here, we're going to use the variable keyword again. And in between those brackets, we will use the white variable that we've created over here. Now, if I save that, we should have the same results that we had earlier. Now, at this stage, you might be wondering, why go through so much effort just to give our boxes a background color? Well, I've got the perfect scenario for you. Let's say you had a lot of elements on your website that have to use the same color. You'd have to copy and paste the same color attribute to all these elements, which can prove to be time consuming. We have solved that issue by creating variables first over here. Now in this scenario that I've given you, let's say in the whole website we didn't like how this Dodger blue looked on our boxes over here. Now the easiest way to fix this is not to go here and change the background color, but instead go to a variable, and then I'll use something like chocolate over here. Chocolate. Now if I save this, you should tell that both of these boxes change with this one line of CSS code. This helps you save time if you had many more elements than the two boxes that I had over here. Now please just keep note that don't let the variable name over here of blue confuse you from the color name that we used over here. That's why I mentioned earlier that it's a good idea to give your variable a short and descriptive name, so when you actually want to change the colors, you are not as confused and don't have to go back and change each variable name and other elements, which will destroy the purpose of using variables to begin with. There isn't much else to discuss when it comes to CSS variables. Try to use them as much as you can so you can get familiar with how to use them. If you have any questions, please leave them down below and I'll answer them as best I can. With that, I'll see you guys in the next one.